In 1975, Kodak engineer Steve Sasson built the world's first digital camera. It weighed 8 pounds, recorded images onto a cassette tape, and took 23 seconds to capture a single black and white photo. His bosses looked at the prototype and asked one question: why would anyone ever want to look at their pictures on a television? 40 years later, Kodak no longer existed as an independent company. This is the story of how seeing the future first doesn't guarantee survival. By the mid-1970s, Kodak wasn't just successful, they were dominant. The company controlled 90% of film sales and 85% of camera sales in America. Their name had become synonymous with photography itself. When people said Kodak moment, everyone knew exactly what that meant. The company employed 145,000 people worldwide. Their research labs in Rochester, New York, were among the most advanced in the world, producing innovations that kept them decades ahead of competitors, which makes what happened next even harder to understand. Steve Sasson's digital camera wasn't some garage invention. This was created inside Kodak's own labs, funded by Kodak's research budget, using Kodak's resources. When he demonstrated it to executives, they didn't dismiss the technology as impossible. They understood it worked. What they couldn't see was why it mattered. The image quality was terrible compared to film. The device was clunky and expensive. And most importantly, it threatened to cannibalize their most profitable business, selling film, and the chemicals needed to develop it. So they made a choice. They would continue researching digital technology, but slowly, carefully, without disrupting their existing business model. The reasoning seemed logical at the time. Film sales were growing, profits were strong, customers showed no signs of abandoning traditional photography. Why risk a proven business for uncertain technology? But here's what they missed. Digital photography didn't need to be better than film to win. It just needed to be good enough and more convenient. That threshold was much lower than Kodak assumed. The company spent the next 2 decades perfecting film technology, making incremental improvements to products that would soon become obsolete. Meanwhile, competitors who had nothing to lose from film's decline invested aggressively in digital. The shift happened faster than anyone predicted. In 1999, Kodak still held 27% of the digital camera market. They weren't ignoring digital technology. They were selling digital cameras. But their strategy contained a fatal flaw. Every digital camera they sold reduced demand for film, the product generating most of their profit. The company was trapped. Pursue digital aggressively and destroy their current revenue. Move cautiously and let competitors take the market. They chose caution. Sony chose aggression. So did Canon and Nikon. These companies had no film business to protect. They could focus entirely on making digital cameras better and cheaper without worrying about cannibalization. Each year, sensors improved. Storage became smaller. Batteries lasted longer. And the gap between digital and film narrowed until it disappeared entirely. Then something unexpected happened that Kodak never saw coming. Cameras stopped being cameras. In 2000, Sharp released the first commercial camera phone in Japan. The image quality was awful, just 0.11 megapixels. But it was always with you. No separate device to carry, no film to buy, no trip to the store for development. Photos could be shared instantly. The convenience factor overwhelmed quality concerns for most casual users. Kodak's response revealed how deeply they misunderstood what was happening. They partnered with other companies to create better standalone cameras, higher resolution, better lenses, professional features. They were optimizing for photography enthusiasts while the mass market was moving toward instant sharing. The company kept asking how to make cameras better, when the real question was how photography itself was changing. By 2005, the evidence was undeniable. Digital camera sales had surpassed film cameras. Kodak's film revenue which had peaked at over $13 billion, was collapsing. The company announced plans to cut up to 25,000 jobs and close 13 manufacturing plants. But they still believed they could manage the transition. They couldn't. What Kodak failed to recognize was that they weren't just competing against other camera companies anymore. They were competing against a fundamental shift in how people thought about photography. Photos were no longer primarily about preservation. They were about communication. The rise of social media platforms would accelerate this trend beyond anything Kodak's strategic planning could have anticipated, and the numbers that would arrive over the next 7 years would show just how catastrophic their miscalculation had been. In 2007, a device launched that would permanently alter Kodak's fate. The iPhone combined a camera, internet access, and social sharing in a single pocket-sized package. Photo quality was secondary to instant connectivity. Instagram arrived in 2010, reaching 1 million users in just 2 months. Photography had transformed from a way to preserve memories into a social language. Kodak's entire value proposition, high-quality image capture and physical prints, had become optional features instead of necessities. The company tried to adapt. They launched an online photo sharing service called Kodak Gallery. They created digital picture frames. They even developed their own line of printer docks for smartphones. Each product made sense in isolation. Together, they revealed a company reacting to trends rather than understanding the underlying shift. They were building digital equivalents of film-era products, while the market wanted something entirely different. Meanwhile, their financial situation deteriorated rapidly. Revenue dropped from 19 billion in 2005 to 7 billion by 2011. The company that once employed over 145,000 workers worldwide was down to roughly 17,000. Losses mounted quarter after quarter. The end came on January 19, 2012. Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, listing assets of 5 billion against debt of nearly 7 billion. Here's the part that makes this story genuinely tragic, rather than simply instructive. Kodak owned something extraordinarily valuable. Their patent portfolio contained over 1,000 digital imaging patents, technology developed during those early years when they were actually pioneering digital photography. In 2013, while still in bankruptcy, the company sold most of these patents to a consortium of tech companies including Apple, Google, Samsung, and Microsoft for $525 million. The technology they invented but failed to commercialize aggressively became the foundation for products that displaced them entirely. Kodak emerged from bankruptcy in September 2013 as a much smaller company focused on commercial printing and packaging. They still exist today, generating around 1 billion in annual revenue, roughly 5% of their peak. The brand that once defined photography now operates primarily in business-to-business markets most consumers never see. The question that haunts this story isn't whether Kodak should have invented digital photography. They did. It's not whether they recognized the technology's potential. They clearly did, investing millions in research. The real question is simpler and more devastating. Why couldn't a company that invented the technology, understood its implications, and had the resources to dominate the transition actually execute that transition successfully? 3 factors created this failure. First, they never truly accepted that film's decline was inevitable and irreversible. Leadership kept searching for scenarios where both film and digital could coexist profitably. They wanted a gradual transition that protected existing revenue while building new business. The market gave them a rapid replacement that destroyed old revenue faster than new revenue could scale. Second, they optimized for product quality when the market was shifting toward product integration and sharing capability. Better cameras mattered less than cameras connected to social networks. And third, they operated as though they had time. The assumption that transitions happen slowly enough to manage carefully proved catastrophically wrong. Other companies faced similar disruptions and survived by making the opposite choices. Netflix killed their own DVD rental business by investing aggressively in streaming. Apple cannibalized iPod sales by building music capability into iPhones. Amazon deliberately made Kindle devices cheap, even though it reduced hardware profit because they understood the real business was content sales. These companies shared one critical insight that Kodak missed. The cost of disrupting yourself is always lower than the cost of being disrupted by others. Kodak's story demonstrates that competitive advantage, market leadership, and technological innovation don't guarantee survival when the fundamental assumptions underlying your business model change. The company that taught the world to preserve memories in photographs ultimately couldn't preserve itself. They invented digital photography in 1975. They filed for bankruptcy in 2012. 37 years from breakthrough to collapse. The gap between seeing the future and successfully navigating toward it turned out to be wider than anyone inside Kodak imagined possible. And that gap, measured in missed opportunities and delayed decisions, is exactly where 130 years of dominance disappeared. The lesson isn't that Kodak failed to innovate. They innovated constantly. The lesson is that innovation means nothing if you're unwilling to let it destroy what currently makes you successful. Kodak saw the future clearly in 1975. They just spent the next 3 decades hoping they could reach it without abandoning the past. You can't. Every moment spent protecting yesterday is a moment not spent building tomorrow. And in business, that hesitation doesn't just cost you growth, it costs you everything.